arriving at the party with 4 packs of Doom Bar Amber Ale, 4 packs of Stella, and a bottle of Shiraz. I assumed that would cover everything. I wasn't invited, but my best friend, Brian, was going there with his longtime friend Claire, and he asked me to come too. Well, actually, he called me and asked me to come to the party and look after Claire. He had a problem at work and will be late. He didn't like leaving her alone among all these office ladies' men. I was single at the moment. The party was for the birthday of a girl from Claire's office. She was a secretary at a local law firm, one of many. Therefore, it was expected that there would be 1 or 2 available girls, and it was cheaper than going to the pub on a Saturday night. The door was open, so I went in and put my drinks in the kitchen, which was full of men and beer, and went to look for Claire. I saw her talking to a guy in the corner of the living room. I saw him shrug and walk away. Walking up to her, I smiled and she said, "I'm glad you're here. Brian will be a little later. There was a problem with the delivery or something." I said that I knew about it because he asked me to entertain her. She touched my hand. "Thanks for this. I'm always making new acquaintances. Is there any chance you could bring me a drink? I wouldn't want to go into the kitchen. It would be like walking into a lion's den." Brian was the transportation manager for a local delivery firm, and he called me saying he would be late because he had gone to either fix the truck or transfer the load to another so the driver could complete his deliveries. He'll be with us as soon as he can, so I had to look after Claire until he arrived. He didn't feel comfortable leaving her alone. It was a party for the girl from her office, so it shouldn't have been a problem. She should have found someone to talk to. I thought he was a little paranoid, but at the end of the day, he was my friend, and he asked, and I did it. Brian and I have been friends since we started primary school at 4 years old, so that was almost 22 years ago, and we have always helped each other. He helped me when I broke my first heart by seeing my then-girlfriend Sharon kiss Charlie. He told me we weren't exceptional, and it was Charlie's 7th birthday anyway. I helped him when he failed to get into the football team when he was 13 at grammar school. The coach told him to come next year when he would be taller, fitter, and faster. I expressed my condolences to him, and we started running together. The next year he made the football team, and he discovered that he liked running too. Running also helped me secure a place as a wing on the school rugby team. We got into a lot of scrapes together over the years, mostly over broken windows and being late to class because we did stupid things. Lighting up a trash can behind the sports pavilion when we tried our first cigarette, which didn't sit well with the director. 2 weeks in jail plus extra homework related to lung cancer stopped us from smoking for life. The hooligans decided that it was not worth taking the 2 of us, and after a while they left us alone. College came along. Brian studied business. I studied accounting. We continued to play sports throughout college. I named him Ponzi because he ran around kicking a ball and fell down as if in pain. He called me Plump Neanderthal because I was running around throwing myself at other men. And to be honest, most of the players I play with definitely resemble Neanderthals. Thanks to all these exercises, Brian and I got into good shape. Brian took a job as an assistant transportation manager, which actually meant the body of a service dog and a driver when needed. I got a job as an accounting assistant at a local engineering firm, which meant the body of a service dog and someone who could use a calculator and do simple, boring work. Then cars and beer were added to the girls. Endless days of fun for 2 fit young guys. Over the years, his company discovered that Brian had organizational skills and saw the potential to expand the business and operate more efficiently. A few years later, he was promoted to deputy head of transport. I found that the wrong numbers just jumped off the page at me, either by mistake or on purpose to hide something, and within a few years, I became deputy chief accountant. I called him Nancy Van Balancer. Couldn't think of anything worse. He called me a Neanderthal, I'm sorry, which was not far from the truth. Then he met Claire, and it was okay. This was always meant to happen. We always knew that one day we would meet the girl of our dreams and everything would change. We talked about it. I just hoped that I would be the first to find a woman to spend the rest of my life with. I liked Claire. He liked her. He wasn't that reckless. He was a little more down to earth. It didn't hurt that she was very pretty. She was about 5'6", long black straight hair parted in the middle. She was very beautiful, and when she smiled it lit up her whole face. I know I shouldn't, but I have to say the body looked good too. They dated for a little over 2 years. She moved in with Brian about 6 months ago, but I've heard rumors that she didn't sell her apartment, but just rented it out. I didn't often have the opportunity to talk to Claire alone, so I asked a question that had been bouncing around in my head for a while. So when will you get married? Stealth was not my strong point. She looked a little shy. Brian is dropping hints, but I keep telling him I'm not ready yet. She looked at me as if she had told me a secret. Don't get me wrong, I love him very much. He's kind, considerate, sweet, funny, and he's very, very sweet. I felt like something was missing, something she didn't say. So why haven't you agreed yet? I've known him for the last 20-odd years. He's a brilliant guy, a brilliant mate. And I'm looking forward to being the best man so I can try a few things for your bridesmaids. She got a little serious, and I tried to cheer her up. It didn't help. We were standing in the corner, so it was quiet. She turned to face me and put her hand on my shoulder. Dave? She looked me straight in the eye, and it was a little unnerving. I've known you for a few years now, so I know you can keep secrets. No matter how brilliant Brian is, there's something missing. Now I was confused. I've seen these two together for the last couple of years. They are amazingly perfect for each other. They always seem to be able to tell what the other is thinking. I never know what a woman is thinking, even after she has told me what she is thinking. It's just, well, that's just the way he is. Damn, this is so awkward. Surely you have friends with whom you can talk about such things. Oh God, no, I know what they would say now, but they're not in love with him, but at least you're his best friend. I put my hand on her. Listen, you can trust me. I love you like family. I'm doing everything I can to help. I don't know if you can. He's just damn not very good. She whispered. I'm just more confused. What do you mean? She simply looked up at the ceiling. You mean, oh, you mean? I discreetly pointed my finger upstairs to where the bedrooms would be, and then whispered, You mean in the bedroom? She nodded her head. She straightened up, as if a weight had been lifted from her shoulders as she shared. Can you think of anything? What? How should I know? FFS, have you tried talking about it? I tried, but he keeps cutting me off. Sorry, but I need more. David, I know you can keep secrets. Is there anything you can do to help me? Her hand was on my arm. I shook her hands off and took a step back as if I had been stung. Well, damn it, hang in there, I'm his buddy. Sometimes she looked confused, sometimes she smiled. No, no, stupid boy. Not like that. I like you very much, very much. I mean, can you talk to him? Educate him. There are rumors. Well, you're not bad. Phew, I was relieved. I don't sleep with married women. Well, only once, okay? Several times with the same one. But it's not my fault. She didn't tell me that she was married, that she didn't have any rings on, and I certainly wasn't sleeping with my friend's girlfriend. I don't know. I've never been asked this before. It's inconvenient, but what's the real problem? We've spent enough time together in the showers after matches to know that the problem probably isn't size. She began to tell me. Now she had tears in her eyes. I love him. I need more of him, if you know what I mean. It's so unreal. I need more beer, and you probably need more wine. I won't drink 2 cocktails. I just needed time to think. I sent Brian a quick message to see how long he would be staying and received a response. He was going to their apartment to change because he was dirty. It will be about 20 minutes, maybe less. This gave us 10 minutes to talk and 5 minutes for Claire to come to her senses. I returned and handed her her drink. She finished half of it in one go. She told me she would get a text from Brian. He would be there in about 15 minutes. I told her, Yeah, we have 10 minutes, so it might be a little rough. He's cutting you off, right? Yes, but only about half the time. That's all. I felt like she was going to say something else, but I raised my hand. I already had too much information in my head. She lightly touched my hand. If you could just get him to talk about it, that would be a start. Okay, I'm going to get him a beer ready for when he gets here. You go and fix your makeup, and I promise you, I'll think about it. I could understand why she couldn't talk to her friends. They would just say leave him and find someone else, but she loves him. Okay, thank you. She looked at me and kissed me on the cheek. You're like the big sister I could talk to, but I never had. I waved my arms up and down my body, towering over her by at least 3 inches. Big sister. Okay, big brother, I could have a chat with someone that I never had. I'll have to start calling you big brother. She went to the toilet to fix her makeup. I went and got some beers, 2 for Brian since he was behind us, and he would probably need a beer. He got there before Claire returned from the restroom. On his way through the kitchen, he grabbed 2 bottles of beer, bringing one to me so we couldn't shake hands. They were all full of beer. We had to hug each other with beer in our hands. The moment Claire reappeared, I tried to balance 4 beers while he hugged her tightly. He apologized for being late and thanked me for looking after his girlfriend. He asked me to go out for a beer on Monday after rugby practice to make it up to him for dumping her on me at the last minute. I told him it was no problem. I liked her. Anything for this couple. But since he was buying beer, I was ready. He told us he was supposed to be late, but when they were halfway through moving the load from one van to the other, the mechanic managed to start the original van. So instead of sending everything back, he split the delivery notices in half and sent 2 drivers. They could catch up and probably finish early. Right now he was here, and it was time for me to walk around and try to find any of these ladies who might be available. I talked to several girls, got to dance with some, and even got a few slow and gentle dances. I swapped some phone numbers, promising that I would call them, but I didn't really want to do that. It was about 10:30 when Brian and Claire came and found me to tell me they were going home. Brian was at school on Tuesday, so they had something to do. Brian grinned his stupid grin and winked at me. Oh my God. They asked if I wanted to take a taxi since they lived close to me. I refused. I let the lovebirds have their fun. Well, at least one of them. I stayed until the party started to die down and headed home, still a little confused. I met Brian in the pub at about 6:30 on Monday, and he dragged me to a table instead of standing at the bar like we usually do. He amazed me with this, without any preamble. I think Claire is seeing someone else. Damn, why do you think that? Well, her behavior has changed. I thought we were fine, but she wants more. Sorry, buddy, I don't see the problem with that. It's almost like it's a guilt trip. I don't know, but I can't put my finger on it. I gave him some valuable advice based on my previous conversation with his girlfriend, and then added, but for Christ's sake, buddy, you at least need to talk about it. Do you need to be able to talk in marriage if that's what you want? I went to the bar. I know he said he'd pay, but I needed to stretch my legs and think about something else. At the bar, I came up with a cunning plan to calm him down. When I returned, I told Brian that since he was going away for a couple of weeks and would be home for the weekend, now would be a good time to do some research, but not for watching adult videos at night in a hotel. I suggested he use the time to use his laptop and Google things like how to improve your sex life or how to understand your women in bed. Then another idea came to my mind. While he was away, I had many hours of free time that I had to use or lose. I discreetly kept an eye on Claire during her lunch. She goes to a hotel near where she works. She went to the gym there so I could check to see if there was any bullshit going on there. I could also look after their apartment. I was glad to do this because I was absolutely sure that she was not doing anything. He seemed to like the idea, and it calmed him down. We both went home quite happy, and not just because of the beer. He had a plan to improve his love life, and then she could marry him. And I gave him peace of mind. I gave hope to my two best friends. I did what I told Brian. I went to the hotel on Tuesday during lunch, found a quiet corner, saw Claire arrive and headed to the pool, and on Wednesday straight to the gym. Thursday was different, and it bothered me. She came in and went straight to the elevator. She went up to the 4th floor. I didn't have a chance to go up there and see where she went. A little over an hour had passed when she left the elevator at the same time as the young man. It seems they weren't together. They seemed to ignore each other and didn't speak. In fact, they seemed to studiously ignore each other. The young man approached the table, and Claire left the hotel. Just a little different, I thought. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up for no apparent reason. The three of us got together at the pub on Saturday night, and I got a hilarious joke from Claire because I hadn't called any of the girls in her office. It seems like I'm in brooding mode trying to help my friends portray me as the dark, silent, handsome, and mysterious man that some of the girls in her office wanted to explore. This is nonsense. I was just thinking about my comrades. But hey, let's take advantage of this, Claire suggested, which was a bit of fun with Shirley. I had her number, so I made a date with her for Sunday evening. While Brian was at the bar having some more drinks, Claire leaned over to me and said, "I don't know what you said to him last week, but there's a definite improvement in our relationship now." On Sunday morning, I went to watch Brian play football. Claire was there, as usual. I stood next to her, not too close. She's not my girlfriend, but she's nice to be around. Without going too deep, I asked if communication between her and Brian had gotten better. She glanced sideways at me, smiled, and said, "He talks to me about everything he can, thank you." Brian caught me at the bar after the match while Claire was powdering her nose. "Hey, buddy, thanks for the tip. Googling how to improve your sex life led me to a ton of women's magazines, but it's not what I expected. Damn, women are weird. Looks like they want to talk. I don't have anything anyway. In order not to lose, if I want to marry her, I will have to try. Thanks, mate. You should try taking your own advice." I responded in a normal male tone. "Fuck off, asshole." I felt guilty on Tuesday when I went to the hotel at lunchtime, but Claire went straight to the pool, and on Wednesday straight to the gym. I was still unhappy about Thursday, so I arrived early and saw the young man get off the elevator with Claire and go to the reception. I had an uneasy feeling. I got into the elevator with him, and we went up to the 3rd floor. I got out at the same time as him and tried to look confused. It wasn't difficult. I watched which room he entered and found myself a quiet corner, hoping nothing would happen. I was wrong. After about 10 minutes, Claire exited the elevator and walked into the same room. Damn, what the hell should I do now? It could easily destroy the people I loved. If only she hadn't already done this. I went downstairs and waited in the lobby. I decided to give her one chance and see what she had to say. Just like last week, they both walked out of the elevator together. This time, before they could separate, I stood in front of them. Claire's face fell. "Oh, damn." The guy walked up to me. Claire put her hand on his shoulder and shook her head. She looked at him and said, "Richard, goodbye. I won't see you again. Don't contact me." He left, looking confused. She extended her hand to me, and I saw that her eyes were filled with tears. She pulled me into a corner of the living room with a niche, and I followed her. The first thing she said completely amazed me. "Dave, this is exactly what it sounds like, and I'm going to throw myself at your mercy. I will answer any of your questions absolutely truthfully and honestly, and in the end, if you feel the need to tell Brian what you saw and what I'm about to tell you, it will still be absolutely and unequivocally my fault. No blame will fall on you." With that, she picked up the phone, and I heard her tell the office that she wouldn't be in that afternoon, that she had something much more important to deal with than work. I was caught off guard and had nothing to start with. And Claire saw this. She waved to the waiter and ordered a Guinness and white wine. She was very professional and businesslike. I've never seen her like this before. Why not? We don't run in the same working circles. There were still tears in her eyes when she told me this. Do you have the rest of the day? It can take so long. I simply nodded. We sat in silence, waiting for our drinks to arrive. Guinness could take a long time. She sat patiently and calmly, but tears were now streaming down her cheeks, which she wiped from time to time with a handkerchief. I took a sip of my Guinness. I think I drank half a pint in one sitting. She waved to the waiter to ask for another one. Looking at me with sad eyes, she said, "After our conversation at the party, you probably understood something of this. Do you want me to tell the story, or do you just want to ask questions?" I had no idea. I showed confidence that I didn't feel and said, "You tell the story, and I'll ask questions along the way." She wiped her tears away again. As I said at the party last night, I need more than Brian can give me, and he didn't talk about it. I didn't see a way around this. Richard simply feels and satisfies this need. This may be hard for you to believe. Not many men can do this, but I can separate sex from lovemaking. Sometimes I want to be hugged by the man who loves me, and sometimes I just need sex. Sorry, but this will hurt you. Brian can't satisfy me on the second point yet. Last Saturday, he was very close. Richard is just doing the second part. I couldn't foresee how to continue the relationship with Brian and get what I needed. And before you ask, I don't work with him. We met at a party for lawyers on the other side of town. He is married and has no intention of leaving his wife. I'm just his outside crush. We meet once or twice a month when I have a problem. Necessity. This may seem ridiculous to you, but to me it makes sense. Are there any questions yet? She was still very businesslike, as if she had a shield in front of her. A few, but I'm trying to figure out how much I really want to know which questions are important, which answers are important. So some of them don't matter because I don't know what's important. Like, where did you meet him and who proposed first? It doesn't matter where you met him, but who proposed first? It's simple. He heard me say, "I need good sex," and he came to me and said he could give it to me as long as his wife didn't find out. I thought he was joking. I won't go into it in detail, but I got what I asked for. Are you sorry? It was a difficult decision. Do you regret that you caught me? I don't know. Part of me says I'm glad it came out. Part of me says I'm glad you gave me a reason to stop, even if Brian leaves me. Part of me is sorry I won't get any more good sex. I'll miss it. Sorry I had to cheat on Brian. Yes, of course, I don't want to say anything against Brian because it's not his fault. It's all my fault. I should have been stronger. Whether I'm going to continue, I don't know, but probably not, because Brian and I are getting better now, and he accepted some of my suggestions on Sunday night, so I see the time, when Richard is no longer needed. Anyway, you forced me. There is no more Richard. I don't regret it. She answered several of my questions at once, even ones I didn't intend to ask. I didn't want to know how many times. Once was enough. I'm not Brian, and this will hurt him. It hurt me too, and although I cared about her, I don't love her the way Brian loves her. Do you love Brian? She didn't answer as I expected. You saw us together. What do you think? I know you saw me with Richard, and it's doubtful, but to answer your question, yes, absolutely. And the next time he asked me for marriage, I was going to say yes. You'll think I'm a conniving, cheating bitch. And of course you're right. You will also ask me if I would do it again. I thought about it a lot, and if Richard hadn't taken the lead, it would have been a no. I've never looked for a lover. You ask me if he's better than Brian. Of course he's better than Brian in the damn odds. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing this. This is not an excuse. But if Brian and I could just talk about it, and he would listen to me, it could be a lot better. Damn, he felt better just having a one-night stand with you. We're not there yet, and I'd still like to know, what does Margaret Thatcher have to do with it? Looking at her, you seem to have planned all this. You answered all my questions as if you knew you would get caught. In fact, you answered some of them that I wasn't going to ask. No, I never expected to get caught. Those are the excuses I use to justify it to myself. But honestly, as soon as I leave Richard, I forget about him until I get an itch. How did you do that? Caught us. By the way, when we got off the elevator, we could have been anyone, but the look on your face almost killed me, and I wasn't going to lie to you. I told her that Brian was having doubts due to increased requests for sex, as if it was guilt sex. She looked stunned by this, and to calm him down, I offered to follow her because I was sure nothing was going on, and I had hotel receipts to prove to Brian that I was here, and I was going to make him pay for my coffee and beer. I told her I saw her last Thursday, and although there was nothing wrong with it, seeing her with this guy made my hair stand on end. So I got here early this week and saw Richard recording and followed him into the room and saw her walk into the same room. Shit. She said, it wasn't guilt sex, I was just trying to make it better. I was just trying to turn him into the lover he can be. I know he's good at everything he does. He just needs a little help with it. Oh man. I needed to think about a few things. I have a couple of questions. Why didn't you ask me not to tell Brian? This seemed to confuse her. I wouldn't do this to you. It wouldn't be fair to both of you. I wouldn't ask you to choose between me and him. I know some of what you two did in the past and how you cared for each other. I wouldn't ask you to put me in front of him. I know you like me, but not that much. Sorry, I like you. You are a very good friend, so I can't do this. Before you tell Brian, can I ask you a favor? One more thing, the last one, because he will probably leave me, throw me out, and I don't think you'll be my friend for long. She reached across the table to take my hand. I pulled her away as if I had been bitten and did not allow her to touch me. I think I deserve it. Tears welled up in my eyes. Let me tell him, please. I'll be honest with him to the point that you caught us, and I asked you to let me be the bearer of bad news. I can't let his best friend tell him when I'm the one breaking his heart. I looked at her and stood up. I want to scream and yell at you and call you every name under the fucking sun. I need to think about it. If I get it wrong, I'll totally screw it up. Tons of friendships, mine and Brian's, yours Brian's, mine and yours, and so much more. I paused. An hour ago, I valued our friendship. At this point I left, even leaving almost a pint of Guinness on the table. This is more important than good beer or even Guinness. Damn, 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 and damn again. What the hell should I do now? The first priority is to protect Brian. But how and from what? His flaws, her infidelities, his grief, damn it. That night I slept little and drank little beer. Decisions couldn't come through the alcoholic haze, but by morning I had a plan. I knew Brian wasn't home until 5 p.m., but I know how these courses can go, especially on a Friday. I wouldn't rule out the possibility of him showing up closer to 1 than 5, and I didn't want to get involved in a deep discussion with his girlfriend. I sent Claire a message. Go shopping at White Rose at 10 o'clock. I'll run into you. We'll have coffee, and I'll give you some options. Delete this message now. I got to the supermarket, grabbed a basket, and wandered around throwing stuff into it. I don't use wet wipes. I wash my hands with soap. So what the hell were they doing in my cart? But I knew exactly what a bottle of gin was doing there. We met each other right outside the cafe. We walked in, and she sat down while I brought 2 coffees. When I handed it to her, I saw her face for the first time. I saw my face in the mirror, looked rough and knew how I felt, but she looked much worse and must have felt it. This time I was much bolder, and I began, looking straight into the eyes. In a voice that I did not quite recognize as my own, I began. Part of me fucking hates you. Part of me loves you like my own sister. I didn't sleep last night. As a man, I understand where you come from, knowing how to separate sex and love, because I did it. Katie was a prime example. So as much as I want to hate you for this, I can't be such a hypocrite. I decided that if anyone tells him, you can do it like you said. But I have an alternative. I saw the confusion in her eyes. For her, this could only end one way. We never tell him what you did. I decided that she did not have a sip of coffee or a cup in her hand. I've never seen anyone look so surprised. When I sat down with my coffee, I think she saw the Grim Reaper sitting on my shoulder. What? How? When? How? What? This is my proposal. We never tell him. You said a couple of things. He gets better. He starts talking. He listens to you. While he was away, he did some Googling on the internet, and it led him to a bunch of women's magazines. He says women are weird, and he's probably not wrong, but that's why he was more inclined to listen to you this week. You told me what you should have told him. He told me what he should tell you. You two need to talk. I know you tried, and he rebuffed you. But from what I heard from both of you, it started happening last weekend. So, if you promise me on your mother's grave, and I know that she is not yet dead, that you will never cheat on him, and you will love him until the day one of you leaves this earth. I will not tell him, and I'll leave it up to you. I will still listen to you both and help you, because I love you both. The look on her face was as if the Grim Reaper sitting on my shoulder had just fallen from his perch. Will you do this for me, for Brian and me? Yes, I would do it for my two dearest friends, all their parents and quite selfishly, and for myself too. But if you ever let him down again, I will spread all the dirty details far and wide. She was now openly crying, and she had run out of paper napkins. I even gave her a handkerchief. I bought a spare one just in case. The last few times we met, she cried a lot. Yes, yes, hell yes, anything, absolutely anything. There are some harsh realities right now, and hopefully this will help more. Before I told her what I had taught Brian, I also gave her some advice. I suppressed my embarrassment and told her how I felt about Katie, and I told Brian the same thing. I tried to reach out to her to help her. She sat there with an astonished expression on her face. I don't know what surprised her most, that I did, or that I took the risk of telling her what I did to Katie. I stood up. I needed to leave now, and I told her. Now straight to you. I'm completely exhausted. You've exhausted me. I'm playing rugby tomorrow afternoon. Maybe I'll see you there, maybe not. If you're not there tomorrow as a couple, well, see you. I went out. I paid for the gin but left the napkins. Yes, this is it. The job is done. It's time for me to move on with my life. At least Brian will still be here. That much I was sure of. We warmed up, patted each other on the back, yelled at each other, called each other names as we ran out of the pavilion. Right at the bottom of the stairs were Brian and Claire. She had the biggest smile on her face, and he was just as happy as Larry. He gave me 2 thumbs up and laughed his head off. I don't remember much from the game. People told me I ran like the wind and we won the match. I didn't see them that weekend or the next. They were gone for a few days. The following Wednesday, Claire called me and asked if I would be at the club on Friday night. She seemed to tell me to be there, so I told her I would be. There was a small disco, not very loud music, more background noise. The 3 of us sat in a niche. Claire's face was serious, and I noticed that she hadn't been drinking much. She sat down between us. Then suddenly, during a lull in the music, she turned to Brian. I felt a hand touch me, which was a little strange, but then she found my hand and squeezed it. Looking Brian straight in the face, she said, "Are you going to ask me?" What to ask? You know, the question you've been tinkering with for the last 6 months. Oh, damn. Oh, does that mean you're ready? Boring idiot, I thought to myself. Maybe it was the beer. Well, you won't know until you ask. Surprisingly, he did it right. He walked to the edge of the bench, dropped to one knee and said, "Claire Wolstenholme, will you do me the great honor of becoming my wife?" Everyone noticed Brian kneeling, and silence reigned around. Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes, she said. She squeezed my hand lightly, released it, slid straight towards him, and pressed her face to his. 6 months later, they got married. And yes, I got off with one of the bridesmaids, not the main bridesmaid. She was married. It was Harriet, actually Harriet, and I dated for the next 18 months. I became very serious about Harriet, and she moved in with me for a while. 18 months after they got married, young Daniel came along, and I was his godfather. That's when Harriet left me. When the christening had died down and only a few of our close friends remained, I got down on one knee and asked Harriet to marry me. She didn't beat around the bush. She stood up, said no, and walked out the door. Everyone was stunned, and my two best friends hugged me as I cried. When I returned home, Harriet had already moved out. A couple of weeks later, we met for coffee, and she explained that she couldn't share me, couldn't share the love. I had no idea what she meant. 14 months later, Kirsty joined Daniel, and I became godfather again. I went to the christening alone. Things went on as usual. I've had several girlfriends over the years. None of these relationships lasted more than a couple of years, and I resigned myself to passing through this world as a bachelor. I was rarely alone. My two best friends took care of it. Daniel joined the army, and I attended his Sandhurst parade and Kirsty's graduation. The two kids had some hiccups along the way, but they turned out to be good people. I've done a little better now. At 53, I'm too old to play rugby. My bones don't heal well either, and I wasn't nearly as fast as I used to be. Brian called me and asked me to meet them both at a pub across town on Monday. We hadn't met in that pub on Monday since he told me he thought Claire was cheating on him. This bothered me a little, and when we got there, it bothered me even more. He was sitting in the alcove we had sat in many years ago, and he looked rude, very rude. I saw him last week, and he looked rough, but nowhere near as bad as he is now. There was some kind of sadness in him. I started, "You look a little shit, mate. Is everything okay?" "Actually, no. It really is a bit of crap. Do you remember when we set the trash can on fire after smoking our first and last cigarettes, and we had to do lung cancer research? It's not lung cancer, but it is cancer, leukemia." I reached out and grabbed it, and my world collapsed. I opened my mouth to say something. He raised his hand, and I stopped. "Sorry, buddy, it's bad. I just discovered it, and it's no longer treatable. I have a month maximum. I'll never go back to that damn pub again." That's when I noticed Claire was standing on the other side of me. She slid next to me, and the three of us cried our eyes out. "There's nothing they can do." Claire answered, "No, it went too far. We didn't know he was sick. He just felt tired. So we just kept going to bed early. It was when he woke up like this last week that I made him go to the doctors. He refused, saying that it was work, and he was just tired. I won't go into detail about how the next 3 weeks were complete crap. A week before Brian died, I was in the hospital visiting him, and he gave me an envelope and told me to open it when he left. He made me promise that I wouldn't open it until then. I fulfilled his promise. The funeral was busy. Daniel was now married with children, as was Kirsty. We tried to make it a joyful event, a celebration of life, but it was hard work. When we entered, Claire asked me if I had an envelope. I did so. It was in my inner jacket pocket. I just tapped it. She smiled at me. I completely forgot about it until I got home, and then I wasn't in the mood, so I left it in my jacket. I didn't know how my relationship with Claire would develop. During the week, we were going to have coffee together, and she was holding up really well, probably better than me. About a month after the funeral, she called me and asked if I could stop by their house and help Daniel. They wanted to rearrange some of the beds. I arrived as requested on Saturday afternoon. Daniel needed help moving his old bed out of his bedroom because he was moving it to his home. They then took the double bed from Brian and Claire's room and put it in his old room. Claire had a new bed. I couldn't always understand the logic Claire was applying to the situation. But that's what she wanted. That's what she got. The new bed arrived as soon as we finished moving the others, so Wednell put it together. After a sweaty day of work, we were sitting in the kitchen having a couple of cold beers when Daniel said to me, "Uncle David." He hadn't called me uncle since he joined the army. "It will be strange. You haven't read the letter yet, have you?" "No, knowing your father, he'll just keep thanking me for what I did, and there's really no need for that. And once I do that, it will seem like he's really gone. I keep leaving this letter unopened, as if part of him is still there." I thought for a moment and said to Daniel, "That's not it. Do you know what's there?" "I don't know, but I have a suspicion. I think Mom wants you to open it." I promised him that I would read it as soon as I got home. We drank some more beer and I wandered home. Since I had a few beers, Claire asked me to let her know when I arrived, in case I went into the woods or something. I sent her a message. This will be difficult, so I poured myself a large gin and tonic, leaning heavily on the tonic. I opened the letter and started reading. It was handwritten and had some crossed-out marks. "Buddy, you think this is a letter where I thank you for being my best friend for over 50 years, and it will make you cry. It will be a trip down memory lane. Sally kisses Charlie and also throws it in the trash can that we just lit on fire with our first and last cigarette. We both got a cane for it, but we didn't tell our parents about it because they would have used it too. We're collecting pocket money to pay for the greenhouse glass that we broke with a cricket ball. We really should have been throwing a tennis ball. My old firecracker, 20 mpg, because the other 20 mpg leaked from a broken pipe and got stuck overnight in Skegness. God, it was so damn cold sleeping in the car. There were several girlfriends until we met Claire, and then I realized that she was the only one for me. Yes, that month when I thought she was cheating on me was hard. She was different from everyone else. I cared, I really cared, but I took it the wrong way. I was a bit macho, thinking I knew everything about how to please a woman. But I didn't do that. As usual, you came up and helped me. Oh, by the way, I found a phrase that really slowed me down. You're trying to remember it, let alone say it when you're itching to drop the load. Not that it's necessary, but it works. The Right Honorable Margaret Thatcher, leader of the Conservative Party, Prime Minister of Her Royal Highness Elizabeth Roman II of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and the Queen, head of the Commonwealth, defender of the faith. What a damn mouthful it was, but it worked. I know how helpful you were to Claire a couple of weeks before she accepted my offer. Your decision was correct. I didn't think so when she told me, but we talked about it, and I'm grateful. Because that decision must have hurt you a lot. Relax, old man, it was right. Because of you, I had a wonderful life. I lived and loved a wonderful woman, and she gave me 2 wonderful children and many grandchildren. Without your clear thinking that day, this would never have happened. Thank you, friend. Now for the kids, the times you talked to Daniel while he was at Sandhurst and struggling, the times you ran with him for miles without saying anything. When he came back from Iraq, he told me how he hugged him and how he poured out his heart to you when he lost that guy in his platoon. He wanted to show me that he could handle this so that I could be proud of him. I was glad that you told him to come to me, cry with his son after what he's been through. You were there for Kirsty when she fell in with that bad crowd. She did things that her mother and I did not approve of. She told me how you yelled and screamed at her, made her feel so small. You told her she was better than this. We never talked about that little trip to her university with the baseball bats. I remember looking at the flames of the fire we made out of clothes and baseball bats, and you hugged me. And thank you for being there for me and not letting that idiot catch me off guard. This is the first time Claire has taken such a small adventure. I hope we helped you, especially when Harriet left you. We saw how much it hurt. But when she did it, and how she did it, and what she said, you made us think, and we looked at things differently. Claire and I also think that's the reason you're alone. This is the hard part for you, but not for me, because I'm not here anymore. Claire and I have recognized this for some time now. In fact, you're probably the only one who doesn't see it. You love Claire because you love me as a friend. You pushed it away, you buried it. Harriet saw this, like many other girls. That's why they didn't stay. They loved you but couldn't share. This may come as a surprise to you. She always liked you very much. But after your decision not to tell me what happened while I was gone, that like turned into love. It started out as brotherly love. But in the end, what you did for us grew. It didn't bother me because I knew she loved me more than she loved you, and I loved you too anyway. So now I would like to ask you for a few more favors. Take care of my wife as best you can. She is very, very dear to me, and I know that you can do this job 100%. Don't marry her for a year and a day after my funeral. This is not for me. I am not here. I am only in your heart. But parents may not take it well. Oh, I think Danny and Kirsty would be over the moon if you ask them. One more thing, she is a warm, wonderful woman. So please don't wait a year and a day to consummate your love. I bless you completely. Okay, buddy, that's it. I'm already tired. And by the way, Claire is sitting next to me as I write this. She helps me when I have difficulty writing. So, buddy, I'm going to ask you to continue to take care of my family like you've done for the last 30+ years. Goodbye and thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your best friend, Brian. The letter was soaked with tears. I couldn't think. I finished my gin and tonic and almost choked. Suddenly, I felt a hand on my shoulder, and I almost jumped out of my skin. I turned around and saw Claire. She was crying. I really should have locked the damn back door. Suppose it didn't matter. She still had a key to my house. Brian and I were right. Do you love me? I don't know. Have I been hiding this all this time to protect Brian? I really do not know. I pushed her back at arm's length. She tilted her head slightly to the side and smiled, her face brightening. I think you're still trying to hide it, she said. Let me make it easy for you. Since that day at Waitrose, I loved you more and more, and it turned into love. Don't get me wrong, I love Brian much more. But who couldn't love a person for everything you did for us? I didn't mind being second. She took my hand and led me to the stairs, looked at me and said, I think it's time. It was a weird party between Christmas and New Year, and almost everyone was there. My parents, Brian and Claire's parents, Daniel and Kirsty and their tribes. It feels like people are walking on the edge. The fathers caught me in a corner and kind of backed me into a corner. Brian's father, Jonathan, looked me straight in the eyes and said, When are you going to ask her? Ask who and what? Of course Claire will marry you. Wow, who said anything about this? Then Claire's father spoke. Well, it's quite obvious to everyone except you. Daniel and Kirsty can't wait. You've been part of their family for so long, for this to end. You're not taking their father's place. You're an added bonus. It's like they have two fathers. I gave in. Jonathan. Brian wrote me a letter before he died. He told me something I didn't know about myself. And yes, I will ask her. But he asked me to wait a year and a day because he doesn't want to upset you. I wasn't sure how you would take it. It was my father's turn. We've watched you two scoundrels grow up and seen the mess you both got yourself into. And if some of the rumors are true, then there's something you did just recently. Jonathan continued. Listen, son, you have our full blessing. Don't wait. Don't waste any more time. And we're not getting any younger. They let me go. I returned to the living room and there was silence. I looked around the room. Everyone was looking at me. It was skillful setup. Brian's mother fiddled with her fingers. She came up to me and put something in my hand. I looked down. It was an engagement ring. I'll only lend you this until you buy the right one. This one action calmed me down. I was about to go to Claire when she approached me. I got down on one knee and said these words. She extended her hand to us, and when I put the ring on my finger, the hall erupted in applause. Very romantic. I kissed her and whispered in her ear, This is a setup. What do you know about it? Who do you think arranged all this? Love you. 6 weeks later, we were married. I advised Daniel and Kirsty to never call me daddy, never call me uncle. They never called me dad, but sometimes, to annoy me, they called me uncle with a smile on their faces. And then, after all these years, it came out, yes, I loved her, strangely enough. I think that from that day on, she was completely honest with me in the hotel lobby. Her willingness to look at things impartially while also taking all the blame and trying to protect Brian and I and our relationship as comrades.